folks. How is the herd this evening? We have managed not to sound like robots today, so, we're already doing better than we did last week. Did you catch that one hat where everybody was like vibrating like crazy?
Oh yeah, that was a thing.
So my computer did decide it was going to reboot pretty much immediately before I wanted to go online. This has made things a bit of a crunch, more so than I wanted, but it's pretty much the way things go around here, I think. So we adapt, we overcome, and we move on. Um, so I am going to be starting game reviews once a month. Um, this is going to be, well, I mean, I did kind of the spontaneous one uh, last week. Man, time is kind of blurred together on me here. Um, so we are going to start today with the Escape from Miklagard, which I really desperately always want to call Milkagard. I don't know why. Joining me is David Hatt, who is friend of the channel, has been here before, and we are delighted to have back. Welcome.
Good to be here.
For those who might have missed you before, would you like to give us a quick rundown on your gaming experience and how you are in the industry currently?
All right. Well, because I'm in the industry, I got stuck as a permanent GM about 20 years ago, and I've been kind of wavering around that ever since. Lots of games under my belt. I've worked under several companies, briefly with companies like AEG, short stints with Wick Media, John Wick Media. I work with other people behind the scenes, a lot of indie startups as well. I'm trying my own hand at it, but it is a slow process. I'm learning.
Slow and steady wins the race. Um, Quick hello to the chat. We have Legatus, who is, of course, always here as our awesome mod. Rebel Rose, also known as Rachel, who is, I think, rebranding a little bit. Welcome. Uh, and Hanayama-san, who is here and I believe like recomputered with like new snazzy equipment so that he can actually participate in things these days, which of course means we're going to have to get him, you know, on the channel at some point. He has had a constant excuse that he couldn't because his computer wouldn't keep up with it, so. Mwahaha, now you are mine. And Eraser, our other mod, welcome, and thank you for joining. Um, I was late. Hanayama-san will give me a hard time about this. I was late with getting out the hey, we're going live stuff. Because, again, the computer rebooted on me. So if anyone could like and share and all those great things, I would really appreciate it. Um, Otherwise, thank you, Rose/Rachel. I'm just gonna call you the Rebel. We're nicknaming you the Rebel from now on. So yes, Escape from Miklagard. This is one of the few supplements I am gonna review. I don't normally plan to do supplements unless they are part of something else. So number one, if for instance, I was to magically actually be able to back the Huckleberry thing and I was doing a review on the Kickstarter, then that comes with both a book and a supplement adventure. I would do both of them. Um, the other option is, for instance, if somebody was on the show and they had presented their game and then they put out a supplement afterwards, I might review the supplement. Or if I had reviewed a book, I might review the supplement later if I really felt it, really needed it. In general, though, I do not plan on doing supplements because they're usually for games other people have written, and I'm more interested in the small indie stuff that really kind of needs the attention. Hello, Ms. Sparkles. Um, so Escape from Miklagard is an exception. It is old school essentials. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I have not played Old School Essentials. So my understanding of the actual system is going to be somewhat limited. But I'm mainly looking at story layout, things like that anyway. If you like, because this is the problem with supplements. If you like Old School Essentials, you're gonna like the rules. If you don't like it, you would not even be looking at this. Um, this is by the Fictionaut, who I met on Discord. Hat, do you remember his actual name? It's in the book, but
Yeah,
I am brain dead.
I'm going to mutilate it, unfortunately. Ivan Cantero Munoz.
So Ivan, got it. No wonder he goes by Fictionaut.
Um,
Um, I believe all of the art was done by actual people. It feels weird saying that. Uh, I'm never quite sure how to put that, but most of the artists I also, or the cover artists especially, I also cannot remember how to pronounce their name. So, um, welcome, Dawn of Mutilation. I love that name, and I don't think I've seen it before. So, welcome. Um, I don't know if I should call you Dawn or Mutilation
mm,
or Dom. DOM, Dom. Um, so, as I try to do when I do these, I try really hard to make sure that there is a difference of opinion on the game. I think I mostly succeeded in this. So we are go Dawn. um, oh, I'm not saying very well at all today. Ludon. All right. Um, yeah, I hate to say this, but I'm really terrible with names, and so on the screen is probably the name, or the name I'm introduced to you is probably the name that I am going to remember you by. Because there's so many people with so many names over so many different, like, social media things. There's some people that have a different name on every social media thing, and I'm always totally lost. Um, so escape. Let's see. I have to get myself onto a proper screen here, which of course is going to be made very difficult. Um, I have to say that, and this is me, okay? I'm old. I have terrible eyes. But I don't think I'm the only person playing old school games that falls into that category. I do not know how old the Fictionaut is. I do not know if they wear glasses. Um, I found some of this really hard to read. I find the front picture quite dark. Um, and let's see, get down to. So the layout is a little bit odd for me. This two-paneled thing, you can't print it. Like, you can't print it as a booklet. It doesn't come out in the right order. Um, it makes it hard to read on a tablet. It makes it hard to read on my computer because you have to kind of keep shuffling back and forth. Um, I I personally cannot read print this small. I have to end up like doing this thing. And then like whoops, too far. See, this is part of the problem. Um, you can't even just hit page, like you can't even scroll it. You have to hit page down or page up, and um yeah, so here we go. I have to like scroll this down, finish this page. Don't scroll too fast because otherwise you're going to end up on the wrong page. And then I have to come back up here and do this, which is doable. It's more doable on a tablet than it is on something like this. But like if I was reading on my phone, it would be totally impossible. Like even blown up like this, I tried it last night. The print was just too tiny. Um, and there's a lot of white space that I feel like the lettering could have been made bigger. So I think that's my initial impression looking at layout is if you're going to do the two-page thing, make it a printable booklet format. Um, and make this lettering bigger. Use up some of this white space. Hat, being less blind than me, what are your thoughts?
Well, I use publishing programs here and there, and this feels like this is ready to do pamphlet printing. It could just be the standards where Ivan was making the book, but over here we wouldn't normally see the double page. We can actually format PDF in individual page, at which point this text would be quite large and readable. So I think it's just a last minute formatting error for their production is all.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that if it had been individual pages, most printers will just allow you to hit booklet and it will automatically reorder the pages in such a way that it will come out as a two-page foldable booklet. Um,
We're likely running across something where there's probably like a published file out there where you push a button and this thing becomes much easier for everyone to read. Thank you, phone. Um, but it is what it is. It's the format we received it in, so it's the format we are reviewing. So
it is. But we have already discovered that there were some things that I missed because I was having trouble reading it. So this is why we have a second set of eyes. Um, I do like some of the artwork quite a lot. The art form changes a lot. I have not decided if I like that or not. I think I am just too used to formats where, one artist does at least most of it, or at least there's a similar style. Um, I think individually all of the art is quite good. Um, I just had a hard time adjusting to the fact that I'm used to things being a certain way, but that doesn't mean they have to be that way. So, thoughts? You're crackly.
oh, I am sorry. I do these interviews on my back porch because it's about 10 degrees easier, and of course the Air Force decided to interrupt today. However, as far as this whole thing goes, there's a lot of minor errors that indicate that an editor or someone in professional layout could have fixed almost all of the problems we have on the outset here, even the more practical problems. This is an indie work, and the artwork's part of that. So the art is a variety of styles, it's a variety of positioning in within and underneath and around the text. I have had to learn the hard way how to avoid these things, and I'm still learning it. So this is written by a person of a skill equal to my own as an amateur indie writer. That's my impression, and the artwork layout is part of that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I'm just trying to decide if I don't like it or if it's just there's a difference between something being new and something being wrong.
Well, it's unpolished, right? So it has all the rough edges of mismatch and things like that, and that's gonna give that weird feeling, right?
I don't even know that that's a bad thing though. That's what I'm trying to decide.
It is raw, which gives it a good feel in certain cases.
Um I I don't know. I mean, yes, it doesn't feel polished, but I mean, I read a lot of indie works, so that's pretty common. Um and I try very hard just to like to not get stuck in, well, this is how everyone else does it and therefore this is the way it needs to be done. I guess that's my issue. I worry about falling into those habits. So,
It's double edged, right? With the indie, you don't have enough peer review or additional employees or a big studio with enough eyeballs to give you a consensus of feeling, but you do get to put all of your ideas into the book the way you envision them. So
Hmm.
the trade-off is real.
True. Um, I believe that this person is English is their second language. That would be my guess.
They
Um,
are born in Barcelona, and this is published by an international company, so I would assume so. Translating errors are found throughout the book for sure.
well, the interesting thing though is that they apparently work as a translator.
Yeah, well,
Um, but like with all editing, and keep this in mind if you're ever going to write something, chat, you can't see your own mistakes ever. Your brain knows what it's supposed to say, so your eyeballs see it that way. Um, so on to content.
hmm,
What is your favorite part about this?
okay. Well, I got to narrow it down. There's a couple really good ones. I think my favorite stuff is the quips, all the little anecdotal things that manage to get jammed into this book, real world references, and uh, most of them actually pretty tastefully added in for giggles for the game master reading them, but not necessarily supposed to be translated to the players. One of my favorite things are names of specific encounters. You're going to get things like pulp culture references, Clash of the Titans, Weird Science, and Heavy Metal are names of specific encounters. And in the military district, you have a particular location that has the three encounters: Snafu, Fubar, and MIA. That was interesting. But there's also like just the weirdness of it. It has a very punk feel about it. And even the writer mentions that his inspiration were like 80s action hits, Escape from LA, and also mentioned like the Fall of Rome, which is painfully obvious as you're going through the adventure that there's a lot of falling going on, but the little cute stuff got me. There are thespian method acting doppelgangers is just a weird random encounter you can have while wandering through the city streets. Um, but those little things give me a giggle as a game master. They're not necessarily going to translate to the players, but they give you an immediate feel for what you should be shooting for and inject levity into a particularly dark, grimy adventure, which can keep the mood a little higher than grim dark. So
Yeah,
that's
and I see.
my
I
favorite.
think this is where I always say I like the differences of opinion. Um, I think things like that belong in games like Paranoia. I don't think they belong in a game which is supposed to be a high tension escape from New York, um, stressful game. I think it. I personally do not like books and movies that take me out of the immersion by saying, "Here's a medieval world where people talk like X, but then we're gonna throw in like modern day slang."
Mm, I don't know. I would argue this module is set up to be campy. You have giant ants that are invading the city to steal the fresh water. You've got dragonfly Air Force mutant Jem'Hadar who are laying waste to the city, cackling madly about how buildings are evil. There's a lot of like Flash Gordon-y. Escape from LA even had, and New York some points had those moments of just strange gonzo levity to them where the viewer is the beneficiary of it, not necessarily the people in the scenario. Not to mention this is a world where everything's flipped on its head. None of the races really act like you'd think. Some of them are drastically different than like the D&D or Tolkien-esque tropes. They're intentionally twisted to add a little more insanity. So I could see how it's sort of like, I guess my biggest comparison would be if Jim Henson were to make the Sword Coast. It'd be a little weird.
Um, I can see that. I guess my take was that this was old school essentials, which is kind of a traditional OSR game that does not have that kinds of things. So maybe I just wasn't looking at it from that perspective. So that's, yeah, okay, that's an interesting. Now I'm going to have to read it again with that with that kind of a thought in mind.
There are things like the gnomes. The gnomes are 6 inches tall, and they ride on essentially battle tortoises through the city streets, looking to get paid in coins, which would be roughly half their height. And they're trying to get their comeuppance. Like, there's a lot of stuff where you read the material, you present the material, and your players got to be looking at you like you're crazy. So I don't know.
Well, considering we had a discussion backstage about the measurements of the city, and considering the measurements of the city, I just assumed that the gnome thing was an inability to do math.
Measurements are optional. Fantasy is in charge.
Yeah, it's like the city is a TARDIS because the measurements given for the city can't possibly fit the number of people that are supposed to be in the city.
Well, there's the irony with the writing as well. The city has no map on purpose, but it has lots of points. And I think the tragedy of it is that if the city had even a district map, everything could have been properly explained. It is experienced as a nebulous cloud of encounters that happen to the party, which can be cherry picked by game masters or randomly decided through several of the charts, or both. Everything from the building to the type of people you meet to the scenario you find them in. Are they on fire? Are they not on fire? Is the building collapsed? Things like that. You could chart master it. You can narrate it, picking your favorite elements, but there's no way to draw a map. It's a lot of interesting points in the void, and I think that's a
Yeah,
failing.
I think so. I'm reminded they actually said a metropolis as massive as the capital of an ancient empire is, it would be absurd to provide. I think it's supposed to be to provide a highly detailed map, gaming time. I think gaming time and economy wise. I'm guessing a little bit. To make the experience of navigating through its streets more enjoyable for the referee and players alike. The map of Miklagard is designed so a hex does contain a whole district recognizable by a landmark. So the implication is that there's a map, but there's no map.
And I think
Um,
this is a shame. It's,
right. That's what I was gonna say. Is that I would absolutely love this if it came with a map. Um,
and
it's
we've seen successful modules do this in the past. I mean, look at Dungeons and Dragons with Baldur's Gate as an example, and the way it handled it was very succinct. I was spoiled back in the day with probably the ultimate map-based city that this should aspire to be, in my opinion, which was an adventure called Freiburg out of 7C, where the city was the map, and then they took the time to put the points on the map and give you just snippets of detail. We have the opposite here. We have no map and blocks of detail about certain areas. And mind you, those blocks are filled with delicious, delicious information, though. That's for sure.
well, that's the thing. So we were discussing how we were going to handle this. Hey, Abe, welcome. Um, we were discussing how we were going to handle this because normally I like to go over, positive things and negative things and, the things I think, aren't wrong but could use tweaking.
Okay.
And then end on something positive. The problem is that everything in this is so intertwined that I couldn't really figure out how to do that.
Well,
Um,
we could break it down by the good, bad, ugly theory. So
well, but the problem is that I feel like if I do that, at least with mine, I think you could probably do it very effectively. I think my opinions are so intertwined that that would be really difficult because most of my thoughts on this are I like this except or I don't like this but um there are very few things that I overwhelmingly don't like or do like. They're always kind of I like this but not this. I like this but I wish it was done in a different way.
hmm.
Um
It
Um,
does. It has a discernible story. It has some quality content. It has a lot of ways to get your party dead, and it has a basic point to your adventure, which matches the title of the work. So it's got four.
I think that's the other reason I did not assume that this was intended to be taken with levity, because like this is going to be such a high kill game that it doesn't feel like something terribly funny.
There certainly is a mix of feelings amongst the genres, but there are some things in there that can't be ignored and do clash. It gave me a feeling similar to early on when I was watching Labyrinth. You know, you get the first couple watch throughs of Labyrinth, and it's this terrifying, horrifying place filled with Muppets. You're like, I don't know how to balance that. That is strange. David Bowie is singing songs about stealing babies forever, and then there's this strangeness to it that's supposed to be like a childlike horror, I guess. Mm.
Now, see, interestingly, I never found Labyrinth to be like problematic, and people talk all the time about like, oh, it was really creepy as a kid. I was like, no, it wasn't. I never had an issue with it. Um, Now, Little Shop of Horrors, that's a different story. Never understood why people find that funny.
So we are two sides of the same coin then.
Well, you
Okay.
have to understand, I was forced to watch Little Shop of Horrors when I was like 8, and my parents own a greenhouse.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Trauma is in fact a thing.
I wasn't traumatized. Well, I mean, at the time, I just found it terribly scary. Um,
Hmm.
but I've never found it funny. I don't find it traumatizing now. I just don't find it funny. Um, does this say somewhere it's intended to be run by or played by 2 to 6 players? Do I remember
Uh,
that correctly?
it is for a small group of beginning adventurers.
I thought
Yes.
somewhere I remembered. Oh, 3 to 6. Here we go. I found it.
Yeah. So there you go.
Um, I cannot imagine going through this with 3 people. I feel like everyone would die.
Well, certainly if they take on every encounter, they are not going to make it out alive. Like that is a truth. If you're sneaky, if you're smart, if you're savvy, a small group can make it through this fairly intact. If you go up and you thump everything with a weapon, you're not going to make it out of here with 3 players. The encounters don't support that at all.
But so many of the very buildings, places that tourists would go on a regular basis appear to be, trapped for no particular reason.
No, the some of the stuff that's abandoned, they turned the security systems on when they left. Some of them have like this Greek idea of, well, the owners have left, but these super deadly murder guards have been stationed in their home to make sure that no one raids their home in the middle of essentially the city's apocalypse. You know, just in case someone stops by, they murder you to make sure that the carpets stay clean. There's a
Well,
lot of that.
except that the basis for the game is there was a civil war, uh, rebels won, the new emperor, how does this go? The new emperor threw out the old emperor, but that split the city guard. Hey, Adam, welcome. Oh, and hello, Ben. Um, that split the city guard, so there weren't enough of them to keep the city running, so they hired in umpteen million mercenaries to fill the gap. I don't think any emperor ever has been smart enough to, stock their or dumb enough to stock their entire city with paid people. He didn't actually have enough money to pay them, so he basically took money from everyone and everything in the city. But somehow there's still treasure. Um, and then when he ran out of money, he just took off.
Well, it gets a
That's
little worse than that too, because a lot of the forces that are now invading the city and wrecking it were people that weren't among those. They were other interest groups and other foreign nations that he had borrowed money from, or had put into debt, or had dislocated from their homelands. And now they're coming to get a piece of whatever they can as everything falls apart. Like he put everybody in debt, and then he ran off. Great boss.
um, which makes me wonder where all the money's supposed to have gone.
Well,
I mean, it sort of makes it look like he was just flushing it down a hole somewhere. Um, okay, so my overarching perspective on this is what I mentioned to you earlier. I like the individual points of like the points that would be on the map. I love the descriptors. I think it's tremendously creative. How a lot of the traps are put together, how a lot of the interactions are put together. I don't like how it got there. Um, so Daddy Emperor is supposed to have killed Baby Emperor's girlfriend because he was having an affair with a servant when he was supposed to be married or getting married. Um, that has happened in every empire with every arranged marriage for all of time. This is not new. This is not abnormal. This is something they all do. Like, that's the benefit of being emperor. You get to bang a lot of people. Um, that way if like the new wife doesn't produce an heir, if all else fails, maybe you've got a bastard somewhere. Um, but on top of it, baby emperor apparently became the heir by murdering everyone else in the family.
yeah, he's written as a right bastard, that's for sure.
Which, first of all, just says, hey, we need this guy to be really bad, and we need to make sure you know he's really bad. Um, but also, like, he murdered all of his siblings, and an affair was Daddy Emperor's breaking point? Like, sure, you've killed everyone else, you're a terrible, terrible person, but I'm gonna make you my heir right up until the point where you sleep with the wrong woman.
Well, they do cover the family life a little bit, which does make this a little deeper. For instance, the first murder was a mystery for the most part. Dad suspected, but mom was wrought with despair because one of her children had died and she wasn't going to see any more of her babies hurt. And by the time things started to descend into true madness and things were kind of coming to a head, mom was kind of out of the picture. Dad was a workaholic, kind of, as indicated. And, well, the kid was an ascending star and probably was rotten his whole life by the read of it, anyway. Also, typical empire behavior, as I understand. Because they say that Dad did a lot of work to make the Empire as cool as it was when he was in charge, and the son squandered it, is the impression that I get from the read.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing that there weren't empires that were, passed along through bloodshed. I'm saying that if you live in the kind of empire where things are passed along through bloodshed, getting upset about an affair is probably not going to be the turning point.
Well, you could spice it up. That's who he was married to that was important, and she took it potentially very personally. One of the factions that's currently wrecking the city is representing her people. So,
Well, see,
you know,
that's the thing. If her family had killed the the girlfriend and like even if they had framed Daddy Emperor, like that would make so much more sense to me.
mm,
Or the girlfriend convinced, the emperor like, "Hey, you really deserve to be the one in charge," and just, like, I don't know, Macbethed him.
well, there's the other part of this whole adventure as well. Is while that's an interesting backdrop to justify the scenario, all of that has very little to do with the adventurers. The
Except
poor,
it with the adventurers, yes, but with the adventure, it has everything to do because we wouldn't even
yeah,
be here otherwise.
that's true, and that's why it's provided. But The adventurers, if they find this information out, have gone really deep into places they really shouldn't be. Although, admittedly, those places are provided in the adventure just in case.
See, my
Like,
argument would be this whole thing would be better if you just cut the background.
I don't
Like,
disagree with that. Yeah,
don't give us the affair, don't give us the like terrible relationship. Kid overthrew his dad. Dad is outside the city. Um, though apparently there's some discrepancy there. There's also like multiple references to the emperor, and it becomes very difficult to tell which emperor they're referencing. Um, I mean, if you just went for this is a city under siege and everyone's freaking out inside, you'd still have the same setting. But you wouldn't have people like me who actually like read the first few pages. Because I mean, honestly, most people just skip this. Most people are just going to cut straight to the adventure. Um, I am one of those weird people that reads cereal boxes. Um, we have a new name in the chat, and I'm gonna butcher it. Uh, Sekuhei. You and Hanayama-san can both yell at me for having gotten that wrong. But welcome. I always love to see new names. Um, I what happens is people like me who read the background go into the cool stuff with this still like little voice in the back of my head going, but,
it's
instead of
true.
just enjoying the parts that I know objectively are really good. Um, welcome, prophetic. Um, it's a little bit like the cover is, probably drawn either it was either stock art or it was drawn to certain specifications or whatever it may be, but it shows desert and scantily clad people, and yet one of the major big bads heading for the city are an army of frost giants. Um, and again, the cover is just the cover. It doesn't necessarily have much to do with the adventure itself, but it leaves overly analytical, persnickety, picky people like me going, WTF.
I don't know. I grew up in the era of Dungeon Crawl classics and little pamphlet things that go on the spinny rack in the store, and none of those covers matched hardly anything going on. Even the original Fandelver, you look at the cover after doing the adventure, like I kind of get it, but what the hell is going on? I didn't expect the cover art to have any major relevance to the content. I'm just beaten to death that way, I guess.
Well, no, that's why I said I know that I should not necessarily be making that connection. I mean, I don't really think that, Daggerheart is really full of pastel skies and people posing all the time. Um,
Well, I mean, it's Mercer, so I never know.
I didn't say it wasn't. I said I don't think it is.
Right. Hard.
Um, but it's still. I read somewhere once that like people remember when you're doing public speaking, people remember your first sentence and they remember your last sentence. Everything else in between is just kind of an impression. Um, and for me, this is the beginning is a problem, and that makes it harder for me to pay attention to the fact that the middle is quite good.
Well, I think that the other problem is the how it's presented. It's not a traditional linear adventure. There's not an A-B adventure. This is an open sandbox during a mess of things going on all at the same time. This doesn't have direction. It's you roll the opening credits, you're in the middle of the city, your objective is singular, it's get out, but doesn't give you really any points in between. It's just go, and it leaves the party to guesswork. And some parties excel in that, but there are plenty who are used to the formulaic adventures who are going to get stuck in this and get bogged down by the idea that they have too much freedom. And don't get me wrong here. I actually prefer a sandbox over anything, but it is it has no rails. OSHA would not approve of this module.
I actually, so this is one of the reasons I actually did want to do this supplement. I mean, other than the fact that I have spoken with Fictionaut, I think I like them. Um, that and the fact that I agreed to do 2 supplement things before I went, you know what, I don't really want to review supplements. So that'll be this month. We're gonna get those out of the way this month, and then we'll move on to the non-supplements. Um, but aside from that, one of the things I don't tend to like about regular adventures is that they are so linear. I don't normally play standard adventures. I don't buy them. I don't like them. Every once in a while, I will run across one that is set up like this. You know, here's a map. Here are points on the map. Here are the interesting things. I recently bought a dungeon for Shadows of the Demon Lord for to run on Foundry. I think it's the first time I have ever bought an adventure to run, and it's because it is set up very much like this adventure. Um, the difference is it has a map. And I think where this, I think the lack of map really hurts this. I love the dropping it in and just letting people go. I really liked the old Myst, where you just show up on an island and no one gives you any directions. Um, that also kind of reminds me of this. The problem is that it becomes very difficult to know where anything is. When I read this without having a map, all I can think of is a lot of the complaints about the Rings of Power series, where you could not tell how far away anything was from anything else, um, because there are points where it seems like something takes like forever to get from point A to point B, but then they teleport back in like, the next episode.
Well, the whole idea without the map is that it's all on the game master to present it in order that they want the adventure to proceed. The players have a false sense of agency because they don't know what they're doing, so they decide to go with the information they have. But the game master then has to take the library of things and figure out how to order distance and how to get everything done. It's a lot of responsibility. You have to do the homework. You cannot pick this thing up off the shelf because the game master essentially has to build a map for the group
Well,
out of
that's the
the
thing is
various
that
things.
why buy an adventure? Most people buy adventures because they don't have that much prep time. I think you would actually take more prep time having to design a map and figure out where everything's going to be, because you're going to have to write it down.
No doubt.
Like, you're going to have to draw it out, because as soon as, your players say, "Oh, we're going to backtrack three I can talk 3 hexes." You got to remember what they did 3 hexes ago.
Even if you build it as like an A/B adventure, you still have to make all of those decisions, which requires decent amount of knowledge of everything in this book. And while that's not unexpected, it's still a heavy weight if you get a decision wrong or if you. There's a lot of more responsibility in the game master than you normally find in adventure. You're right. I will say this though, the one thing I'm woefully afraid of for anybody running this who doesn't do a ton of prep time is that there's no time gates in here. You can't open this thing up and say I can make a 2 hour or 4 hour, 6 hour adventure without doing a lot of homework because it is a big toolbox of a lot of cool things without any direction as to how to use them. Uh, so if you just go in and say we're starting this module up, this is where we are, and you let the players take the reins in any sort of capacity, you could be sitting there from anywhere from 2 to 12 hours and may not have much control over it unless you do a lot of reading and prep work. That's an issue.
I think I think where this excels is, you get these you get these supplements that are basically like, here are 100 NPC interactions.
Oh, would this be good as like a city, like pick and choose? Oh, I agree.
Um, it's I don't know that I can I can make and prep an adventure. I mean, prep being in air quotes because I don't tend to prep a lot. I'm a bullshit artist. I make things up as I go along. I could put together a game faster from scratch than I could taking the information from here and trying to figure out where everything fits and trying to sketch it out as players. I mean, I'd have to have like I'm trying to think. I'd have to have like not graph paper but hex paper, and minimum every time a player said, we're going to the hex to our left, I'd then have to write in, you know, this was building number 6. Like I plugged in building number 6 here. Um, that would take me more time than doing something from scratch. On the other hand, I think where this excels is I really want a building with a cool trap in it to go in this spot for this game I've already prepped. I think it would be wonderful for going in and saying, okay, this building would fit perfectly in what I've already got. In the same way, I need an interaction with an NPC. Here's a book of random NPCs.
Hmm. While I game master very differently, I would have a similar issue. See, for me, I if I were to just describe it, I would probably take this thing and I'd chop out the chunks of text and array them in a rough order, like of first encounters, middle encounters, and ending encounters, little stacks. That way,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have variety, and when the players say they go somewhere, I would look through the stack that's appropriate. As at the beginning of the adventure, we look through the beginning stack, and then I would cherry pick something I think that the party composition and things like that would work with, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would work through the stacks until I got to the end. It is similar to the map, but the problem for both of us is identical. Um, in order for me to use this properly, it would be far easier for me to read through this and steal ideas and then game on the fly than it would be to be true to the module because of the complex connections between some of the locations
Yeah.
and the open world setting with definite weird plots trying to advance within it. That's a lot to try and balance.
Yeah. And the other thing is that I mean, I didn't get the impression this was supposed to be an expansive, very long campaign. Did you?
My worry is that it could accidentally become that way.
Well,
It's
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is I feel like, I mean, the players don't really know where they're going. There are multiple armies advancing. There's a huge moat. There's very strange walls that we can't quite figure out the composition of. Um,
well, even the mechanical details, like talking about monuments and buildings, and every one of them has at least two or three details for the adventure. Some of them have charts that randomly you roll on whenever you encounter them. All of them have weighty mechanics and a block of text.
which
And
is interesting because Old School Essentials is specifically supposed to be non-weighty and very light and very fast.
yeah, I don't think this one's going to get a passing grade for OSR. So, yeah. But is it a great resource for GM ideas? I think we could both agree on that.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. You were talking about you'd chop it up, and I was like, oh, you know what I really want? Forget this being a book. I just want a deck of cards that has like each building. So I could literally like stack the cards in different places and pull them out as I wanted them. Um, rather than like flipping through the book.
the deck building city escape game. Yeah, I'd probably try that once. But you're right. The way it's presented supports that idea. Uh, can I run an adventuring party to this city as it's written? Absolutely. I've had the time to start prep work on it, so that is one aspect of this that is a thing that I have in my hat there. But
Would you enjoy running a party through this?
I enjoy running parties, and every game, no matter what the module is, becomes part of something I make. So that's not a fair question. Would my version of Miklagard be fun and amazing? Absolutely.
No, no, no. Is if you ran this exactly as written, would you have a good time? Would your players have a good time?
Exactly as written. That's a trick question because as it is written, it's you start in Miklagard. There's stuff, and you escape Miklagard. I, mm, yeah, it's a trick question, honestly, because there's no, like I said, there's no path, there's no choices, there's no checkpoints in the adventure. It's just everything's crazy. You got dragonfly Jem'Hadar Saurian warriors bombing the city, gnomes riding tortoise monsters, and goblin space marine battle babes that come to collect your men. Like there's a point where there's so much crazy and so little direction. I could probably make something incredibly fun out of this. And then the next time I'd make something completely different with the same material.
Hmm.
And the next time and the next time. Replayability is very high for this module because it's not a
I
module
would
where it's
totally
a
agree with that.
resource,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah.
Mm. So you want to escape by the bay? Let's do that adventure. And, oh my God, there's a naval warfare thing going on over there. If you want to try and find the gates, you can follow the archways and watch out. Those may be public archways that are monuments to our empire, but they're also trapped for some reason. And wh- while you're trying to get through them, there are giant ants stealing all the water in the city. Um. Okay, and then the iterations
Yeah.
are infinite.
I have to say, I do not understand the giant ants stealing water in the city when there is a 60-foot moat surrounding the city and a bay.
They got the aqueduct, the cisterns, the bay, the moat. There are wells in many of the locations, but they need all that water. It's holy to them. It's a special substance.
And this is kind of what I mean about the stuff that, like, I love the idea of giant ants stealing the water, but I don't understand why they're stealing the water in a city surrounded by water.
It's part of that gonzo again, right? I mean, goblin muscle mummies is certainly a weird thing in and of itself. You have diplomatic lizard men. You've got, I mean, even in the city, you've got free companies that are trying to steal everything, but some of them will just stop and be like, "Hey, bro, would you like a card game? We've got a couple guys in this table in this tavern. You want to just spend some time while the city's burning down and, you know, play some poker?" What? You've got merchants in the city who are just decided that it doesn't matter that it's basically the apocalypse. They've got stuff to sell. They got to make a dime. And while elves are up and down the street murdering everybody, robbing everybody, these merchants are
Well,
like, "Yeah,
and how do they still have stuff to sell if the emperor is supposed to have like stripped the city in order to pay the mercenaries?
I don't ask too many questions. I just enjoy the chaos."
But this is what I mean. I love the individual pieces. I love the puzzles. I love the traps. I just feel like the setting you put them in is so strange. Welcome Demos and welcome Gene Butler. I also like the AD&D 1E modules, but they are so expensive now. Holy cow. Um, you know what this reminds me of? I have just figured it out. This supplement reminds me of porn.
Uh, what?
It claims to have a plot, but really it's just an excuse to write a whole bunch of cool traps.
Okay, that I can understand.
The plot is just there as an excuse for all the stuff we really want.
It does distinctly have that stink to it, doesn't it? Oh no.
I just broke hat.
Well, I'm just gonna steal stuff out of it and run away then, because I have been ruined for all the other Miklagards.
Um, Yeah, I mean, and that's why I said, like, I keep saying I love the traps and the buildings and the description. The descriptions are wonderful. There's not a lot of repetition. Um, there's not a lot of, like, not just in the wording, but in the buildings themselves. Uh, there is not. That's the other thing. Nothing feels connected. Uh, I mean, there are certain individual bits, but like this feels like a city that's sort of like this section was built here and this section was built during this period and this section was built during this period and nothing quite matches. Which actually, now that I think about it, makes the art make a lot more sense.
Hmm. But I
Um,
mean, there's the formatting right there on the page you're showing there. It's a description of the Imperial Palace and a picture of the bay. Maybe that was a little wrongly placed to give the wrong impression. Uh, but you're right. The hodgepodge city elements are there. It's just that it doesn't help. You need as much as possible to congeal the city together. It doesn't have to be fully homogenized, but it needs a framework to be built within. That's why most people write cities as districts, right?
mhm.
So the whole city has this feel and it's in this territory and this is the kind of weather and it's coastal or it's mountainous. And then you go, but this is the Elven district or this is the Paupers district or this is where we put all of our lepers in a bucket. And that gives it enough difference, but it all shares the same frame. This
Yeah.
city is bits glued together by hope and a lot of fire. There's a lot of fire.
Blaze, your comment about spicy take? Is that my comparing this to porn?
I saw that
I mean,
Gene Paul. No?
it's I mean, it really feels like that to me. I just want to fast forward through the parts that I don't like to get to what it is I do want.
Mm. I, s-
Um,
I wish to defend my Jim Hadar comment. I apologize. I made a pop culture reference, but the one of the races is the Guthrak that's invading the city, and they are Dragonborn with all their storyline, with the Jem'Hadar with all of their storyline, combined together into a species that thinks that buildings are evil, and so they're trying to rid the world of buildings and people that make them. They are a they're a hot mess and very murdery, very murdery.
Now, see, again, I can't figure out how they would logically end up in the city,
Oh,
or
they're here to
even,
flatten it,
or even
straight up.
outside. Right? I know, I get that, but like, how did they get this far now and haven't tried before, kind of thing. But on the other hand, I would love to just take the race and put it in a different game, probably a science fiction game.
Oh, the menageries are great. The circumstance that brings them all to the city at the same time is improbable at best. Because I think there's something like 20 different factions, including 7 different races, all of which are twisted from their normal. But if you take them individually in isolation, like the concept of the essentially samurai minotaurs, right? That are envoys from a foreign nation. That's an interesting concept. It's not your traditional Greek portrayal. It's not the typical D&D portrayal. They are honor bound giant murder cows with katana, right? There's a lot of stuff
Giant
going
murder
on there.
cows.
That I want to steal and use in something. Just like the building, just like the encounters, the races are interesting. I don't know what I would do with 6-inch tall gnomes riding tortoise monsters, but I could find a spot for
I
that.
would find something.
Right.
That's what I mean is I love these bits and pieces. Um I just can't figure out how they go together well. Did you ever make leftover soup?
Oh yeah, the hobo
All the
stew.
things yeah,
Nah.
all the things that, are you need to use up in the refrigerator because they're about to go bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You throw them in a soup and throw in a whole lot of spices so you hopefully won't taste too much. Um oh, this is that species you were talking about, right?
Yeah. Look at that. He's it's a thing. Um yeah. It's here to murder you with its cactus sword, and it's gonna get you with its bird beak and its heavy scales. It's basically they're kind of like death angels that are killing people by whipping them with cactus. It's interesting.
The thing is that we think it's, weird that you'd have a species that thinks buildings are evil, and yet there are lots of things about dwarves hating trees.
I think it's a good take because it's something new. It's the different roulette wheel. It's the
Yeah, it's wonderful.
yeah.
Um, if it had just been here's 100, here's 20 new races to put into your game as NPCs, and here's 100 buildings full of traps.
And that's a good point. Like if let me get my thought for a second here. If Ivan had wanted to take the bits of this, these individual races, the some of the urban encounters, the idea of Miklagard and the Empire with a setting, this all of this in its pieces would be wonderful in the Game Masters Guild, as an example, right? It'd be wonderful on Drive Through RPG as individual bits, like we're talking about, because these races are fleshed out. They all have a reason to be here. It gives them their ontological and biological backgrounds. Like the Myrmidons, the giant ant people. It talks about how they're born and how they go through life and their religion, and there's enough there, enough chunky good material that it's amazing. But we're repeating ourselves. I think it's the
Yeah,
I think the
if
bonus is that the material provided is quality. It just has no cohesion.
if if I had done this and if I had the talent to do it, I would have actually made this into two different supplements, and I would have made them both system agnostic. I would have made the map, and I would have marked off suggested places for these things to be.
Oh, I
Um,
agree.
and the second one would have been uh, unique races for you to add to your game, and made both of them totally system agnostic. Um, and just let people put them in anywhere they wanted, anyhow they wanted.
Well, I guess that gets to our recommendations too, right? For a game master, I'd highly recommend picking this up. This is a fun
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I
For
would agree with that.
players looking to have someone run an adventure for them, no. This is this is a wonderful toolbox, and it is beautifully decorated and with lots of cool toys. It needs an adventure.
Yeah, I don't think that I would recommend a GM picking up this up as an adventure. I think I would recommend a GM picking this up as, like you said, a toolbox for whatever else it is they're doing.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Witch Queen. For people who are interested, the PDF is $9. Pardon me. The soft cover is $20. So not unreasonably priced for the material that you're getting, even if you just use it as a toolbox.
It's worth
Um,
$9, I'll tell you that.
yeah, it is
Especially
worth
for
9. Um, I would almost go so far as to say I'd buy the soft. Well, if you're gonna chop it up, because like I said, I struggle with the formatting again because my eyesight's terrible. Um, like the first. Let me go back to the. All of the others are done in two-page things. But if you go back to this is a singular page, um, meaning that you'd have to. How would you even do that? You have to print the first page off. I don't even know how you do that. If you wanted to print this as a booklet to take it someplace, um, I think of things like this because I run at a lot of conventions, and there very frequently is terrible internet if there's internet at all. So I tend to print off almost everything I have in case I can't use my computer. Um, because my computer is also old and the battery dies in about 30 minutes. Um, so I would want to be able to print this off as a booklet. And the fact that this is a single portrait page and these are all landscape designed and two pages, I almost would, just for my frustration capability, I would almost buy the paperback just so I didn't have to deal with trying to figure out which page went where. Um, but again, if you're gonna, it's 38 pages, so if you're gonna print out 16 pages and then just chop them up into cards, it's probably not that big a deal.
Yeah, you also have the ability to do it digitally as well. Clean that process up a bit. It's when you buy the PDF, you can select the text, so there is a possibility of transferring it to other formats. It's a little choppy, but it's
Man,
about
that
as
seems
much
like a
work.
lot of time.
Yeah, but for me, like, that's my
Yeah,
life.
I agree with
So
Adam. Physical media for the win. If it comes in a physical media form, I will always buy it in the physical media, provided I'm not horrifically broke.
I stand
See,
berated. And,
prophetic, I think and I think Hat also would disagree with you, but I shouldn't speak for you. Could be carved up to become a decent mini campaign for the GMs that are still growing their world building abilities. It could be carved up to be a decent mini campaign. It could not be carved up to be this campaign, because this campaign doesn't work very well.
hmm.
Again, material's great, plot not so much.
I think its constituent bits could be expanded upon, when that does test the skill of new GMs. So that's my take on what prophetic was saying. Prophetic, excuse me. Ooh. You filling in the gaps with more of your own material in between these things to expand into more cities and more world. I could see a new GM trying to cut their teeth that way. It could
Mm.
just be that I'm insane and that's what I do, but I'll put
Well,
that
yeah,
out
but
there.
neither you nor I are new GMs.
Nah, I'm
Like you
crusty.
said, there is so much that a GM would have to keep track of. Even if you just said, I'm just going to do this section of the campaign, there are so many things that a new GM would have to keep track of. I just think it would be frustrating and not fun for them.
Hmm.
You and I have hit the point where, we could do this in our sleep. Um, are you laughing at me?
Oh no, no. I'm just enjoying the fact that there's at least two of us.
What, that have done this way too much?
The Grognard Brigade grows stronger.
um, but man, like I'm only up to page 9, and like almost every page has been 2 or 3 new races, new places, new traps, new puzzles. I mean, this
That
one is what, one,
that's part of the
two.
fun of the expansion though too, because they're all soft, right? Even the tables and the optional encounters and the buildings, they don't have a lot of them. And there's a monument that's the opposition to what I'm saying. But like
Mhm.
a lot of the charts for encounters are here's some dudes in a thing, you could do this or this with it. They're soft, they don't have rules really associated unless there's a specific character. And those are the exception to the rule, not the general rule. So you could turn those into plot hooks. You could turn those into I guess from my head, each piece of this that you and I are enjoying is the start of an adventure, is the way I'm
Mhm.
viewing it. Like that's where I think that you can take a new GM and be like, well, if we did chop it up, if we did have, here's the archway. Okay, well, here's an archway in a city. It's got a trap, it's got a puzzle, it's got some history. Go build off of those ideas. And I think that as idea generators, they're
Yeah,
fantastic as
so
well.
like writing prompts almost.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. A lot of it feels that way.
I did like I think you made a description at one point where you said this is a reversed dungeon, instead of trying to get into the dungeon, you're trying to get out, and instead of tunnels, there are streets.
Yes.
I liked that description a lot.
You start in the worst of it and try to work your way out. And it's
I
not
don't know
just
that I don't know that you're starting in the worst of it, considering the place is under siege by like 7 different armies and you're adding towards them.
there are already murder elves in the streets, and like I said, the Jem'Hadar bombing runs, and there. Oh, did I forget the dragon? There was a bored dragon that saw all the fun and decided to come get involved. That's its whole motivation. I'm evil. I fly. I'm bored. My neighbors are on fire. I'm just gonna go romp around in that. Like, it's in the city. It's too late. There's no grand siege with cannonades on the outside. No, they're roaming the city. They're looting your neighbors. Your kid's head's already on fire, and if you want to escape, you're gonna have to go through a horde of goblin super soldiers. It's already too late. This city is crazy. Oh, and I forget that the civilians have partially gone mad, and like there's so much going on that's in the city that you're like, yeah, I feel like I'm in the center of the storm. That's where we start. Like, it gives you the impression that perhaps you should be in a market square or checking out the monuments, looking for work because you're here to get some extra coin. Maybe you're a mercenary to join the free companies. Maybe you're just looking to be a bodyguard or picking up a clue, whatever it is that gets an adventuring party into a city. And then the city just all at once upends, turns into a hellscape, and wherever you go is going to be trouble.
The other thing is that if you're a small, inexperienced party, but like you fight well, wouldn't the smartest move be to immediately try and join one of those mercenary groups?
Ah, you'd think
And
that
yet,
was
I didn't even notice it was an option.
uh, the free company are treacherous little bastards that all hate each other. That's a positive. You can join one of their dozen or so groups. That's cool. Joining up with the elves won't work. They're here to kill you and take all your money until they're satisfied.
No, 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 but
Orcish,
that's what I meant. Is there are several mercenary groups? They've
yes,
probably taken heavy losses. They could probably use, more people.
sure. Or you play a game of cards with them, like I mentioned. Or
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. They're obviously not, terribly bad. So this is what you were talking about earlier with like the pictures sometimes not lining up with things. I saw this out of the corner of my eye, and it made me read this as Saurian cockroach,
oh, okay, I get you.
despite the fact that that picture doesn't have anything to do with this at all.
Yeah, Mirrodin water people, and yeah, actually they're a good excuse. They're a good example of the module trying to build something more than it has. In the Mirrodin's description, they hate the Guthrak. They don't really go into detail about why they hate the Guthrak, but they really don't like the Guthrak. And so, while they're here to loot the city for their holy water, uh, you can potentially, if you have that information, cause an encounter to change, get a different outcome, or use it as inspiration to create an encounter. There's lots of little one-liners that are helping try to thread things together amongst the text that hint about the connections between some of the factions, even between some of the factions in the city. Like the Saurians actually technically don't have beef. They will hurt you, but they're desperate. They're not vengeful, right? They have a specific political quest in mind. If the
Um,
players know that, that's one thing. But the opportunity for the players to know that is not provided readily.
yeah. Um, have you ever read The Monsters Know What They Are Doing?
I have not.
Okay. Uh, if you do get a used copy, the author's a dick. Um, I got a copy for Christmas one year. The entire basis is that too many games are run as you run into goblins, you kill goblins, you loot goblins, you move on. You run into orcs, they all charge blindly and stupidly. They you kill orcs, you loot orcs, you keep going. Like there's no differences in fighting styles, there are no like motivation differences. You just monsters evil attack you. They head in straight for the nearest target. They don't have any tactics. So the basis of the monsters know what they are doing is he basically went through the whole monster manual and like lined out, okay, this is this creature's motivation for why they attack adventurers. This is their fighting tactics style. This is when they're likely to cut and run. This is what they're afraid of. This is, how their society functions. The species in this, I think, do an excellent job of doing that. This is how they're interconnected. This is what their goal is. This is what their, secondary goal is. It does make the species that he's provided feel a lot more fleshed out and a lot more real, and it would be a lot easier to put them in a game in a way that feels immersive. Like there's a difference between, you see a building at the top of the hill and, you see a castle weathered by age, its walls, cracked and falling. Like there's a big difference between, yep, there's a goblin, and here's how the entire goblin species functions.
There is an advantage in the module. For instance, Dungeons and Dragons players in Monster Manual, more specifically, the Monster Manual does give you the brief, which is unfortunate that it has to be the very generic information about the entire species, race, crafted, whatever of each monster, and it's all broad strokes, right? There's a few ideas, a couple examples, and some minor suggestions, but this module gets more personal, and I think that's where it excels, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why they feel more alive. It's not just that Myrmidons are ant people and they go do this, or the Guthrak are magically or artificially created crazy things that want to make the world kind of flat. It's why they're in the city and because of their origins, and it's the and then part of the description of these different peoples, and they are treated like peoples in this one. They're not treated
Yes.
like
Yes,
horrific
exactly.
monsters. Like the greenskins, they live in the north and they are trying to overcome a curse, but they have a whole civilization, a matriarchy that's in the north that has different caste levels and society and culture all its own, and they obviously participated in forms of diplomacy, and the elves have a reason to be murderous because of the situation. That personal touch really sells it. It's
Yeah,
not broad
absolutely.
strokes.
One of my complaints about 5e and other kind of similar, more modern games is I want to make a quick motion back. Grim Jim did a video not that long ago about the fact that too many gaming places don't have a sense of history, and it's hard to get immersed when it just feels like worlds and adventures have been kind of painted over the surface without any depth. Um, I have really had an issue for quite some time about the fact that players now treat NPCs like quest givers in a video game, not like people, not like beings that, exist outside of give me the information I need, um, do the thing I want you to do, and then you kind of cease to exist.
Hmm. The atomization.
Um, and I mean, I think that would be especially true of monsters, except monsters don't even usually get names or get to be quest givers. Other races don't usually get to be, have motivations or be quest givers. Um, and so I love the depth in the species in the same way I love a city or a world that feels like it has history.
That's the combination of connectedness that everything shares, which is the people interactions, the place where things take root. I can feel that. It's more than just the villain of the week. It's why does this villain hate you? It gives that extra oomph. And yeah, I can see that reviewing this again. I
If
want
you,
this setting. I don't want this city. I want this setting.
yeah, if you, if you play in one of my games, you will find that the NPCs have their own motivations, they have their own opinions, they have their own everything. Um, because I'm trying really hard to get my players to unlearn this tendency of just getting the quest and moving on. Anyone who watches Viva La Dirt League, like there feels like there's a lot of skip that goes on in role-playing games these days. Um, Somebody said once, oh, I don't want to have to do what, the game master's prepared story. There was a point once where our game master gave us this like world-ending story, and we just said, yeah, no thanks, and we went and we became merchants, and it was like the greatest game ever. And I said, well, you could do that in my world if you want to become merchants. If you've been handed the keys to saving the universe and you decide to go become a merchant instead, you can absolutely do that. And I'm really glad that you have a good time doing that. But the world is still going to end because the world keeps moving. The world does not revolve around you in my games. The world keeps moving. And if you aren't there to save it, then it ends.
And that's where that session zero becomes all important to get everybody on that same page too, because session zero includes things, in my opinion, like why are you invested in this story, and that's where because the party ultimately is the largest point of failure for any campaign, right? Because the players have their ideas, opinions, and their own character in mind, and the campaign, whether it's crafted by the game master or an adventure, is not that. And trying to get the two together, especially like in an adventure league table, it's the worst. But if you have a party that you put together and you say, before this adventure begins, let's put you into this world. Let's make you invested so that you understand things like stakes and reasons, and you don't have to have a lore bible dropped on you in session zero to get the players into the world, to give them a family, a job, a bad guy that has more meaning than villain of the week. That's necessary for a lot of modern gaming because it avoids exactly what you're talking about. Green skin syndrome, the idea that all orcs bad. Yeah.
Well, I think all orcs raised by other bad orcs 99% likely to be bad. Because I mean, one of the things this whole no species is automatically evil is that it completely takes away from the idea that it's the nature versus nurture thing. You are, at least to a certain extent, the product of where you were raised and who you were raised by. And if you're raised by people whose ethics are, this is how we make a living, is mugging people, you're not going to see anything wrong with that.
I think my spicy take to counter that is I believe there should be things that are aberrant to you and your people in a world. It's the for me it's almost like a food chain or a diametric opposition kind of an idea. It's okay to have things that you can convince your group are evil in your world. That's fine, even if it's motivated by biology, culture, whatever. It's even broader than that. It's okay to have bad guys, and you don't have to justify all of their actions. You just have to have the party experience the results of those actions, and then the party can build their own conclusions. That's my preferred way to present the bad guys.
Well, I mean, all bad guys are heroes in their own story, so at least
Some
good, at least good, good bad guys. That's why I did the I don't know if you watched it or not. I did the whole villains, antagonists, and monsters.
Mhm.
And the idea that the protagonist is up against all three, but again, they all have very different motivations, um, and different ways of doing things. Um, I mean, if you look at some of the great, kind of D&D spin-off stories, I'm trying to think now. So, and it doesn't necessarily work with evil either. The Sturm and the Dragonlance series is a knight who's raised by knights and who wants to be a knight, and knighthood is like his entire identity. And a certain way of doing things is his complete identity. And he has to meet other people and, undergo trials and see things from other people's perspective before he's able to stop being so rigid. Um, in the same way, the Forgotten Realms trilogy there. The one with the drow. The original one with the drow. And the drow that
Dirt
has the two sword.
Sturden?
Yeah, that thing. Um, there is a brief kind of one-off that the reason he is able to leave the drow is that he has a mutation that allows him to deal with light. That even the other drow who want to leave don't have any other options because they can't leave the Underdark. Their eyes are too sensitive. And that it's his ability to deal with being out in daylight that allows him to, again, meet other people, see that there are other options, and make different choices. That for the
Mm.
people who are trapped in the situation where they cannot leave, just end up becoming just another drow.
Ah, I think in a pickup game, something like the aberrant mutation that justifies a cultural change that can make even a villainous monster or villainous creature of any kind change its stripes should be used with hesitation. Uh, because there again, I believe that understanding why villains, bad guys, monsters do what they do is way different than empathizing with them. And
No, no,
because
no.
if you,
You misunderstood. I understand that. What I'm saying is that yes, there can be exceptions to the X race is evil, but there needs to be a reason.
okay, yeah, the exception is the heroic rule. I understand that.
That the spontaneous I'm surrounded by bad people, I have no other options, I know no other life, but I'm magically going to be the one exception to everything I know for no reason doesn't make any sense. It's like bad guys who are two-dimensionally bad. That would be a two-dimensional good.
I agree with
I
that.
have no
Yep.
motivation. I just magically poof.
I am better or different or gooder. Yes.
Yeah, I have overcome the evils of my people.
At that point, it's a reskin of people. People
Yeah,
become homogenous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're kind of getting off track on the actual I kind of I kind of want to make a topic out of this now though. I'm doing topic discussions and I kind of want to I mean, we've already done the villains and antagonists thing, but I feel like you could go so in depth into like all these different aspects. Maybe I'll do a building a villain. What do you think, chat? Building a villain panel topic panel? I'm
My
already
poor.
gonna I'm already gonna do a what is necessary to make a good horror game
Mm,
because that seems to be tough for a lot of people.
nah. Sometimes you just need the right system. Have you ever played Dread?
I mean, I played a lot of systems that do well with horror. Grim makes the comment every so often that D&D is just not really set up for horror. Like it's just too hard to make a really scary game when no one can die.
Well, I mean,
um,
there again, the system. You start with can I hit it? Then it's can I use magic on it? Then it's can I diplomatize it? And then if those don't work, the system starts flailing. That's why D&D doesn't work for horror. You imagine the mythos creature. You got Hastur rolls out of the woods like a ball of hate, and the party's like, "Aha, we have a barbarian tank." Nope, that's not going to work well.
yeah. But I think there are also, especially in this day and age of like safety tools and trigger warnings, it becomes extra hard to do horror.
Can be. There are some of these tools that are very valuable. Lines and veils are something I use in my games. In no matter whether they're horror or not, but of course for horror they are essential. Um,
I'm curious, what are lines and veils for you?
Lines and veils. They're lines you can't cross in the storyline of the campaign. They're just verboten. You do not We do not handle them at all because the players don't prefer to have that in their entertainment experience at your table. And veils are things that can be handled but off screen, just hinted at, talked about, not described in all of their gory detail.
No, I refuse to have either of those. Um, Not because I refuse to have either of those, but because I refuse to hamstring the other players. If there's a player that does not want, I don't know, violence against children mentioned, I can say I won't do it, but I'm not going to say the other players can't.
Well, there again, it's a tool. It's not a philosophy per se. It lets you know where your players stand before you start any adventure or campaign. And I think that's the value of it.
My rule is all of my games that I run, all of my horror games are hardcore horror. And if you don't do well with hardcore horror, you should find a different game.
Well, that's fair enough.
Mainly because I have had games that went in directions that I totally didn't expect and led to certain things that I could never have predicted. I could never have told players, you might have to worry about spiders in this scene. Because I never planned for there to be spiders in that scene. It's just that someone did a thing, and that was kind of the most obvious natural outcome of the thing. Um, I once had players that were getting kind of bored with a particular campaign we were on. So just for the hell of it, I was like, well, we'll do this like one shot side thing where they end up in a dream, like because they ended the previous campaign camping and they'd gone to sleep. So I was like, they're getting kind of bored. It's getting kind of stale. So I'll put them in a dream realm where they meet one of the Fae, and they have to figure out how to outsmart the Fae and get out of the dream realm. It was supposed to be totally unrelated to the rest of the campaign. Um, One of them immediately went and made a deal with the Fae, like locking them into like servitude to the Fae. So now the Fae is part of our game. Had absolutely no idea that was going to happen. Um, and that happens all the time. That's part of being a sandbox is players are always going to do something that you don't expect, and it's going to lead you down roads you never planned for.
That brings us back to Miklagard.
There we go. Look, we finally came around. This is where you fish out your deck of cards and say, "Here's the building that's got traps in it, and here are the guys who want to play cards."
Yeah, like I said, if I ever came back with a deck of cards for Miklagard, I would buy the crap out of that. That'd be great. But as far as in conclusion, this is a fun adventure if you can find the adventure. That's not supposed to be a slight, but it is a truth about the adventure module that it claims to be. The content is deep for each individual instance, but not coherent across the board. And the story is there if you want to find it, but you don't have to. You're not there as a party to find out why there's a problem. You're there to survive the problem.
And I
And
really think that it is easier and more fun and better use of the material to just take those pieces that are excellent.
yeah, that
I mean,
is
why hunt that hard for a story when you could just take the parts that are great and add them to a different story?
that is fair enough.
Um, I do think it's worth. For game masters, I do think it's worth picking up. Like we've said, for the bits and pieces. Treat it like porn. Fast forward through what's the attempts at plot. Get to the good stuff. Um, I was really hoping I was going to break hat again.
Nope, nope. I have steeled my resolve against your naughty bits.
um, but yeah, I mean honestly, even if this had just been written as a here's 100 buildings and 20 new creatures, you still would be paying $20 for it.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I might pay the $9 for the PDF and make cards out of it and laminate them. I think that might be my route.
I'm stealing some of these races. These are fantastic ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are several. I have a. It's on hiatus at the moment in because I'm running a Shadow Dark Viking game instead. Um, but once we get back to the Numenera game, there's definitely some of these that are getting plugged into that. Because Numenera is great. You can put anything anywhere in that game. But I think that we have pretty well wound down. Is there anything else that you think that we should mention or that we haven't covered?
We are plugging the game as part of this, right? So it is Escape from Miklagard, published by Stella Gamma, written by the madman from Barcelona, Ivan Cantero Munoz. Um,
And Eraser has been putting the link to the drive-through repeatedly in the
Perfect.
chat. So
Yeah. I don't think that I hate this at all. And I think that I recommend it to game masters.
yeah, I don't. I definitely don't hate it. I try really hard not to review things I hate. I think it has issues. But I definitely don't hate it, and there are parts of it I love. I think the buildings are nice. The buildings are good. The races are great. The plot is, there's your good, bad, and ugly.
There you go.
um, the plot is bad.
You said it.
Starting. I did miss one thing that I thought was very funny. When you think of Empire, do you think of a city?
Well, that's the problem, is because it's limited to Miklagard. We don't know what's beyond the walls other than things that hate you.
Well, but I was like, so the Emperor escaped from the city during a civil war and is apparently still in the Empire.
Uh,
So
Wait,
he's
which emperor is that? Is that the first
yes,
emperor? Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
um, but like this is what I mean about not feeling very fleshed out. Like, are they in the Empire? Did they go to another kingdom? Where is the Empire? How big is the Empire? Uh, you know, is there another a kingdom on this continent somewhere that they've escaped to? Or are they somewhere else in the Empire and that's why there's no military because they've all like taken off to go be with their ruler?
You
In
give
which
this
case,
thing
why did they not win in the first place?
right. You give this thing 300 pages, call it a campaign setting, and it would be fantastic.
I don't even think you need to do that. I think you just need to have a map of where things are and be like, "Yep, here's a map. Do
You are
whatever."
asking too much. Maps are expensive and they take time, and you have to write on them. And oh wait, they're none of those things. You could do that.
I mean, the only exception might be if it was one of those, what do they call it? The maps that are made out of like mouse pad stuff.
I
Nobody
am
knows what
too.
I'm talking.
Yeah, I'm too old for that. My
There's
maps literally.
they're not really designed as battle maps. They're designed as terrain things. And they're just very, very general terrain. And they're quite expensive, mainly because they're nigh indestructible.
I play 40k on things like that. I don't play D&D on things like that often.
I have. Well, not D&D necessarily. We have one that is an urban, like, it's basically a destroyed urban street. And I once did a Slay Industries game that was pretty minis heavy on one of those, just because it fit really well. So, welcome to As Your GM. We're getting ready to wrap up. I hope you've been lurking and haven't missed everything, because I'd be very sad if we were wrapping up as you got here. But yeah, I agree. Like, it is not difficult to have somebody. There are people on Facebook groups all the time saying, "Hey, I make maps for role-playing games. Let me know what you need." And it's like stock art. Sometimes you just find stock. I mean, it is a pretty definitive layout with the moat and the bay and everything, but you could probably find something similar and, you know, just make it up as you go along.
Hmm.
Um,
That that comes into that homework thing again.
well, I mean, game masters need to prep a little. I mean, I prep about as little as game masters can prep, but there's still, yes, I looked at the map once.
I learned my campaign prep from people like Runehammer and Index Card RPG. Uh, it's all ad lib for the most part. I am a very strange game master these days.
I tend to kind of waffle. It depends on the system. There are some that I really put a lot of effort into. And then there were some I put at, well, I won't say I put none. Honestly, the ones I put none, I think I work harder at because my brain really has to do like more acrobatics during the game. Um, but it's wonderful because like two of my favorite game masters to watch streams on are Grim, who does no prep whatsoever, ever,
It's the master of that. Yeah.
and who will take any adventure handed to him and completely proceed to massacre it and make it into something lighter and funnier. Um, and Barlow Keep, who spends, I think he has spent something like 9 hours last week prepping 2 pages for his next game. Like he has an entire journal for every game he runs where he draws out like maps and how people are connected and how things are connected um and he has really, I mean, despite the fact that he's been gaming a fraction of the time I have, he really re-inspired me to start playing with how I run games more because he had some great advice on things like use a different tablecloth cover depending on the game you're going to run because it will automatically get your party prepped for what it is you're going to be playing. Um, wear a different hat depending on, where your campaign is taking place. Um, and he has some, I mean, he does way more work than I'm ever going to because I don't have time, but he has all of these like little hints about ways that he like gets people more ingrained in his stories and they're wonderful. Um and so I find it funny that, the two people I like are on totally opposite ends of the spectrum. And I will take a little from column A and a little from column B.
That's the wonderful part, right? Because like I used to be one of those very deep prep GMs, and I had to have it beaten out of me over the years. Right now, for my Sunday game, my only major notes are a few things that are mnemonics, and then I have all my character sheets for the players. And it's more of a reactive style campaign that builds itself. I guess I view it as a level of casual veterancy. I guess it's not anything special. It's just that all the tools get stuck in your head, and so you don't need to use them as often on paper or on your laptop or whatever. They're just kind of there, ready to go
Yeah,
for
even the
conversation.
even the campaign I bought recently, which is really more of a sandbox campaign, there are certain things that are marked out. And just having to flip back and forth on my computer to try and find what the thing is I'm supposed to read off to players, I just find like incredibly annoying. I was like, I could have just made that up. Like I could have just invented what was supposed to be here. Um, and I could have done it faster than I can find the right page.
I feel you. This is my opportunity to apologize to anyone who I ran adventure leagues for because their experiences through those modules had completely different dialogue in many cases, and sometimes descriptions went a little off kilter because
Yeah,
it's that whole feeling of I could have done this easier, faster, and better for the party.
yep. But I felt like I haven't run a pre-made adventure in a really long time, and despite the fact that it's not normally my cup of tea, it's still a skill I feel like I need to develop. So again, I run a lot of games for people at conventions, and they give me pre-generated adventures. So I need to kind of keep up on being able to run pre-generated adventures. It's a skill I had not used in a while, and I needed to exercise that muscle some.
Hmm. It's like a bicycle, though. And once you're sitting down, I'm willing to bet it all flows easily for you.
Yeah, so let me tell you, and we'll end on this. After not having ridden a bicycle for 10 years, I will tell you, you can in fact forget how to ride a bicycle.
Awesome.
And the fall on your head is not fun. Luckily, I have horns to protect me. Thank you very much to the chat for being here. It has been wonderful. As always, you have been very active and very engaged, and I really appreciate it. Um, and Side conversations or directly affiliated, they have been great fun to read. Thank you to Hat for joining me, and for kind of helping me put into words things that I agreed with you on, but I was having trouble figuring out how to phrase them. And some things I disagreed with you on, but was having trouble figuring out how to phrase them. Um, your feedback was great. I really enjoy talking gaming with you, and I really enjoy your takes on things. So I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate being here. You're wonderful.
The joke that came to mind, I'm not going to say. So
Hmm.
I already broke you once.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. Thank you very much. We are. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Currently, no. I'm writing what I'm going to be plugging.
Woohoo!
Some editor came into my life a while back and inspired me to do some massive editing on my work. So I'm currently doing that.
Good for you. um. Do I have anything I want to plug? I am working on my next hashtag. The book is better, and I'm doing Watership Down. The book versus the original 1978 movie, which apparently traumatized many, many people. Uh, the book is worse. The book is not worse as far as its writing. The book is worse as far as the trauma.
So
So
many
for anyone who
points.
hasn't read it, you absolutely should. Um, I had not seen the movie before, so I watched the movie for this video. And I gotta get the book reread. Um, and then we'll have that out hopefully in a couple of weeks. And next week, what are we doing next week? Next week is our first topic panel. I am going to be talking with the T-shirted historian. Um, who else is on? I've totally forgotten. Honestly, I'm really amazed I could remember him. But we are talking about the power creep over various editions of D&D. Um, entitled something to the effect of From Heroic to Superheroes.
Why the new D&D is terrible.
Again, I'm attempting to keep an open mind here. I have people who actually enjoy 5e. I have people who liked 3.5 the best, and I have people that liked the first couple editions the best. So,
Hmm.
T-shirted historian will be on. Um, Neil Litherland, who has been on the show before talking about his game. He did. I think he. Good heavens, he was really early last season. Um, but he'll be coming back to talk about that, and then we will have a new guest who has not been on the channel before. So that will be next Monday, same bat time, same bat channel. Also, at some point, I'm going to be doing another random video. It will be another game review, and I'm going to be doing that with Emperor Goodwin. It's just a matter of prying him loose from his work in order to find a couple hours. So make sure that you are subscribed so you will get notifications. And you can forget me. You can listen to Goodwin just rave because that's what he does best. So
My kind of guy.
Blaze says, no, he's right. The new D&D stuff is terrible. Yeah, I've come to the conclusion that anything with a pastel cover and opposing group on it is just not for me. But so be it. People like what they like. Some people like what they like because they've never tried anything else. But Everyone have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you back soon. Hat, I hope we will have you back soon once your new game is done. And happy headbutting.
Meet me at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to gab with you. We'll talk about immersion, adventure heavy lows, characters and story, warlocks and barbarians and bards, comedy or horror. We got inspiration if you're in need of it, or just need to hang out somewhere cozy. We're the guys for you, we've got time for you. Come and join the crew, here's what to do. Meet us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards. Meet us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards.